Okay. So for our project, we bought a duplex and rented it out on Airbnb. We rented out both sides. So here are our assumptions. Would be booked throughout the year. How much of those days would be occupied? How much we would earn based off our worst case, best case, and our base case, and our home appreciation costs, and a worst case, best case, and base case. And we just inflation, cleaning fees, just because you could charge cleaning fees on Airbnb, and refurbished costs, because we did end up selling the house after we went positive. So I'll go ahead and present our base case. So for our did the mid-year convention. So our first year, we were only booked out for about half the year, so 137 days. We started off our nightly cost at $295, and that's for both sides. It's not per side, that's for both sides added. So each side would be about 140 something dollars. We calculated our compensation by multiplying our nightly cost by the number of days booked. Our total saved is just it's not necessarily our gross, it's how much we net after paying Airbnb fees. Airbnb does take 3% of every stay. And then we have our home appreciation costs, because we do plan on selling the home. So we appreciate the home, see how much it would be each year. Here's our costs. Our first year, that first 6 months, we just had the cost of the home. And our net cash flow was negative, of course, because we paid all cash for the home. Our second year and so on, we had utilities, maintenance, warranty every year. We had insurance costs every year. That's home insurance costs. Our property taxes every year. All these are yearly costs, and our Airbnb costs every year. We were able to calculate a cumulative net present value by percent, and net cash flow and our dates. So we ended up going positive around year 16 or 17, really. It was like 85% into year 16. We went positive before we hit 17. So after going positive, I decided to go ahead and sell the home, because we were able to finally pay off our original costs. So everything else after that would just. So we went ahead and sold the home, and we added in a refurbished cost. So that way, after 16 years, there's bound to be wear and tear and damage. We went ahead and added a refurbished cost so we can get it ready to sell. We sold it for 1.175, refurbished it for 117,000, and our net cash flow from that was $1 million. And after expenses and our cumulative NPV ended up coming up to 467,000. And that year we were completely positive. So for this project, I had included our net present value was greater than 0. So we went ahead and accepted that. Our rate of return was higher than our WACC. So we went ahead and accepted that. I went ahead and included a payback period for the home. I based it at 20 years. So if we don't go positive after 20 years, then we would have gone ahead and rejected this project for our base case. But we went positive after 16 years. So we went ahead and accepted this project. I believe the payback was important in the base case, just because I dragged it out until we went positive and then sold the home. If I had still been negative, then the payback could have been ignored. But since we went positive, I believe it was helpful to add in there. Okay, that is all for the base case. Go ahead and move on to the best case.
Okay, so for our best case, some of the things that we decided to change with our assumptions is that we decided that we would book more days. So 90% of the year, we've decided that we would be occupied. And so because of that, we did increase our nightly cost. We did start off at $350 per night, and like Linda said, that is for both sides. So yeah, because we're assuming that we are booking more nights, we have decided that we're going to be charging more because of the demand. Other things that did change was our home appreciation. We decided to appreciate it for more at 4.4%. And then let's see. And then once you go to cumulative NVPV, you can see that we go positive after 10 years. And then when we go to net present value, we did decide to accept that, as well as internal rate of return at 15.3%. We accepted that. And the discount payback at 16.04, we accepted that as well. But other than that, those were the three things that we decided to change in the base case.
So for the worst case, we did drop the days booked. We dropped it by 60%. And then for the night cost, we also dropped it as well. And that would be by our assumptions. We also had a change there. And then once we went to our MPV, we did go red. If we were to stretch it out more than what we had here, it would start to go positive. But it's still negative here. I think about like 30 or 40 more years, we would probably go positive. But for our worst case, it started to affect us because of how we're not really staying up on our nightly cost. It is down. And then our days booked, of course, is down. And our refurbished cost is also more.
All right, so for the break even, I wasn't able to get our net present value exactly to zero. So we ended up with about $457, which was not too bad. So our days booked, I ended up at about 226.5. Rent was $247.50. And then our appreciation was 77%. So looking at our numbers, could you scroll to the right a little bit, Linda? To the little schedule. Yeah, so I had increased my days by 0.5. My rate was also the same, but then my appreciation, I was struggling to meet our exact days that we had decided to, like our number of days booked, or our rates, I'm so sorry. Our rates, I wasn't able to get it perfectly aligned. So I did change them up a little bit. Our base case changed. It went down by 5, and then our best case increased by 5. So not too much of a difference, but we did end up with a pretty good break even, with the exception to the $400 and something. And then in this one, the payback was also negative with the 18. So reaching the positive, we could have gone down as far as to reach the positive, but it would have taken longer than the allocated time. I guess I'll explain the summary. Okay, so this is just our summary. It just shows everything that we had from all of our other cases, everything kind of summarized, added up. I included in there that we did modify our rates by a little bit just to achieve our break even. And then also for our base case, Linda, go ahead and explain what you did for the payback.
So for our base case, like I explained earlier, I went ahead and dragged it out until we went positive before selling the house. We also did the same thing on the best case, which is why our best case ended up being 10 years. So it took 10 years for it to go positive, and then we sold the house. On the worst case, it would take about 30 or 40 years. I believe it's actually 40 because I did run that scenario. So it'll take about 40 years to go positive. So that's why we went ahead and just sold the house on the worst case and ignored the payback period. On the break even, it actually did get to 0. I think I did change something in here and I didn't run the goal seek again, so that's why it looks weird. But it did get to 0 when we rented out 227 days at a rate of 247.50 and at 0.77% appreciation. And that is our project. I'm not sure if any other groups have anything to add. If not, then we can take questions.
Well, let me, yeah, so you're the first team, so I'll give you a little bit of leeway here. So there's 2 things you definitely need to add. If you can't add them today, you can put it in a Word document and send it to me. But 2 parts of the assignment. One is the discussion on the intangibles. So y'all forgot to put the intangibles in there. We talked about it a little bit in some of your meetings. And then you need a final recommendation. So let's start with the final recommendation. Would you put $700,000 of your dollars into this?
My final recommendation would be yes, because at the end of the day, real estate is an investment. So even in the worst case, if it does take 30 or 40 years, you're still accumulating equity as the years go by.
And then do y'all want to try intangibles, or you want to send that to me later? Because it is part of the assessment. What are things that you talked about with doing Airbnb that aren't in the numbers that would be important to your decision, positive or negative? So do y'all want to do that now, or you want to email those as a separate document?
Do y'all want to email those? We could email just so that we can kind of come to a good little conclusion, not have to sit here and take up like the viewers' time if we have to think for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just some obvious ones to come to my mind, because I just saw an article the other day of a bad tenant that destroyed the entire place. It cost them several $1,000s.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's crazy. That's a big one.
That would be an intangible that, you know, you definitely want to discuss. And there's probably some others as well. So yeah, intangibles are important. All right, so my biggest question, so I always take these of what I want to do this.
Mhm.
And so, and that's, you know, that intangible is a big one for me, because it seems like most of the time it'd be okay, but every once in a while it's going to be a huge hassle, really bad tenant. And I don't think that's avoidable. I guess my biggest question for you, if you really, really believe this, is your worst case is that your occupancy is 60% of the days, and that's both sides. How confident are you? In your worst case, it looks okay. You kind of break even once you sell the property. So it's making money for you. You're making your 5% return. So it's a decent investment. So even in worst case, but 60%, and you're talking San Antonio now, you got a really nice place, 700,000. That's a pretty nice condo. And I think y'all said y'all picked a spot that you thought would be popular, right? That's why you're spending so much on the property.
So
Yeah, we chose, it's actually downtown Austin.
yeah, the location is actually downtown Austin, and so that's kind of what we based our assumptions of how much would it be booked. Because a lot of the Airbnbs, when you go on the calendar, let's say, and it's a location in downtown Austin, they're pretty booked out. It's very common that they're booked out weekend.
And also price is higher because of the location and all of the things
Yes.
around you.
Yeah, I'm actually very confident in the 60%, because with an Airbnb, it's actually, just because I know a few Airbnb owners, it's actually pretty easy to get booked out if you have the right pictures and you have the right quality of space, I should say, like good furniture, a good location, and we had all of that. So that's why I believe the 60%.
I don't know if you have
and
specific
60%
properties.
is
So
the back.
yeah, so yeah, so you had 90% in the best. That seems, but I guess downtown Austin. Now, when you say downtown Austin and a condo, were you talking about a house with a yard and 2 doors, or was this like a
Yeah, it was
condo,
a duplex.
an actual duplex downtown? Was it brand new? 770,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah,
Or are you buying a used house?
I believe it was
was
a
a new
little
house.
older, but it was remodeled recently. Like we were looking at the pictures and it was pretty well, like it looked like all the appliances were very much recently put in.
But it's an actual house, because you think downtown Austin, there's not a lot of residential, but you're saying it's near downtown Austin though, so it's someplace. I can't imagine
Yeah.
there's a duplex in downtown Austin. Okay, so yeah, Austin's a hot spot, no question. Probably most of the year you could. And then I was worried about the rate, but now that you say that that's the rate for, for half of that's the rate. So you're talking like 140, 150 bucks a night. That's, do you know what that compares to a hotel? And the hotels downtown Austin are really nice. I imagine they're pretty expensive. Do y'all know what the competition rate is?
Yeah, a downtown hotel in Austin for one night and one bed, I think is like 250 to 300. I actually was looking at them. I'm from Austin, so I'm pretty knowledgeable about the areas and all about the pricing. So yeah, if you're wanting a hotel right in the middle of downtown, it goes up to $300, and there's not a lot of space there. It's pretty just one bed, one bath. So
Yeah, so your Airbnb would actually be a pretty good deal. You got more space, you got a place to park
Yeah.
the car. That's why I was asking, if you have an actual drive, that's a hassle, because downtown Austin, parking down there is a real pain. It's
Right.
becoming like New York.
Yeah, but I do believe that we do have a space for them to park. So that's another bonus, because downtown Austin, they charge up to like $30, on the weekends for maybe a couple hours just to park your car and like walk to, I don't know, somewhere downtown.
Okay, now go back to your base case, or maybe your assumptions. So it sounds like you have a yard. Did you put something in for yard care at all? Or do you have a yard? Do y'all know? Is it kind of like so small it doesn't really have one? In any yard, even 3 feet by
I think
3
we have
feet
a
is.
little bit of a yard, but yeah, I think we have a yard, but
I don't know if
I
you
think
put
it
anything
kind of
in.
looked like there was yard. Definitely room for somebody to bring their dogs out to the bathroom, which is a big plus that people look for.
All right, so maybe
include, we didn't include lawn care, nor did we include like
it may not be that expensive
pet
if it's a small
maintenance or
yard.
pet.
Yeah. All right, just curious. Yeah, so I mean, you're bringing up some stuff for the intangibles, right? You got some advantages that hotels don't have that you can offer and advertise. Intangibles can include that you have this source of income that's, you don't have to work, it just kind of works for you. But you do have some hassles of, what if the cleaning people don't show up? What if the line gets out of whack? If people are going to bring their dogs, what happens if a dog gets loose? Or, so you have those type of issues, but you do have advantages over hotels, definitely. All right, so yeah, I'm an Austinite. Yeah, that would be a nice area. I'm trying to picture a $700,000 house. That's a tough area. So the land is going to be your biggest problem. It's the house itself.
Doesn't the Zillow take us right to the house? Is that the one that y'all use?
I believe so. So if you click on Zillow, it'll
Yeah,
show
it
the
should
house.
bring you to the Zillow.
Yeah, that helps visualize it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I just sold my mom's house in Austin, and we got twice as much as that house was worth. So real estate prices are high. Yeah, it looks like it might be a few years old, but if it's been refurbished, it is a
Yeah.
nice. So your yard there is some yard there.
Yeah, it's a decent
It looks like
spot.
we have a drought resistant yard.
That might
It's a
cost you
drought.
an extra $100 a month or something, but doesn't look huge. Boy, that's a big drive. I wonder if that's shared with somebody else, but wow, that's a really nice drive. That would be a great Airbnb, no question. That tree doesn't look like it's on your land, but that's a really beautiful tree. But it looks like the landscaping is pretty nice. So I would think at least $100 a month for landscaping. So come down a little bit, see what else they show. It's really interesting here. Oh, it says built in 1947, so it is an older structure, but it looks like it's been refurbished. Older can actually be perfectly fine. Use a little bit of culture and
I believe it's also a drought resistant yard. Like this looks like not drought. It looks like gravel and stone rock. So I don't think
so you have a little bit of yard, so if they have a dog, so that is kind of nice.
Yeah.
They have any inside? Yeah, nice patio. Yeah, okay, I can see what you're
And the
saying.
driveway is pretty big. Just in regard to if we're having a duplex, we're probably gonna have maybe 2 tenants, I guess 1 per side. And so that's what I think it's big, but it will accommodate to what we need.
So it's side by side. It's not like first floor, second floor. They both have 2 floors.
Um,
no, it's first floor, second floor.
It looks like it could be first, second. Okay, but that may even be better. You keep them separate. All right, so okay, that looks nicer than where I live, so that's kind of nice. Okay, that's all my questions. John and Andrea, y'all have any questions?
No, I think my only question was reading more into like where the percentages came from, but I think you guys already answered that pretty well.
yeah, a lot of our percentages came from actually Linda has a relative that owns an Airbnb and it is located in Austin. I believe, is that correct, Linda? I don't want to.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So a lot of some of our percents for like percent occupied, I got that from her. So I put it in the Airbnb owner as our reference. Some other things like our property taxes and like closing expenses, I was just able to find that type of information online. And I just put the link onto where I found them here.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I have.
All right. So you're the first team, so it's always tough being the first team. So that was the biggest thing is get those intangibles. I warn the other teams, make sure they have intangibles. It's like 10% of the grade or something. So you don't want to leave it at. So all right. Thanks, team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Professor, is there a certain amount, like a certain minimum or maximum of intangibles or just whatever?
Well, it's a brainstorming, so I don't want anything. I don't want to be like 3
Well,
words.
I'll just kind of pitch our ideas and then we can just throw them all together.
And
what are all the important things that would influence the decision that you don't have in the numbers? And some of them may be related to numbers, but you know, cleaning, you got an employee that's got to show up to do the job and they don't always do that. Who's going to take care of that? Those kind of things.
People canceling, stuff like that.
Yeah, someone cancels last second. What are the rules? They complain. Someone doesn't like it. They complain on. Those are kind of things. It's a hassle of running any kind of business. And you just got to think, what do you enjoy about this? What do you hate about this? Those kind of things. That's why I say a lot of times you can just go on to either YouTube or just Google, do I want to do Airbnb, and just see what people complain on the internet all the time. And that'll give you some ideas. A lot of times the complaints have nothing to do with the numbers. And just see what they're saying. So, I mean, the obvious thing is you have a bad tenant. I mean, that's the thing that probably worries most people. And, it's the same thing with Uber drivers. You get a bad rider, it's going to really run your day.
What date do we have to turn in our Excel file? And do we all turn it in separately, or should we just one person turns it in for all?
You can just email your final. I need everything by, say, Sunday at 6 o'clock on the 14th.
Oh, Okay,
Professor,
do we email individually or just one
No,
person?
just one person. Email it to me and you can copy the team members.
I was just gonna ask for the intangibles. Do you want us to come up with solutions, or is it just the things that might hold us back from doing an Airbnb?
Well, you mentioned them. You have to mention somewhat. You don't have the solutions. If you do have a caveat, you say this can be a problem. However, we think we've addressed it by doing this. If you have
Okay.
that, then put it in there.
Perfect.
If you don't, that's just a bad tenant, something you just have to realize, and you have to, whatever. I know Airbnb rates its tenants, so you can certainly have some control that way. So yeah, if you got something that sounds serious, but you thought about it and you had some way you're at least addressing it to reduce it, then include all of that in your discussion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Really, it comes down to you're recommending someone do this. What's all the things they need to think about? So if they do your recommendation, they're not calling you 3 months later and say, hey, y'all forgot to tell me about this. This is a pretty serious issue. So you want to make sure you give them the full story of this particular financial decision.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Thank
And then,
you.
all right, thanks. And Everett and Andrea, you can just submit yours. I think I put it on Blackboard. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.